All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing this morning? If you guys can hear me, please show proof of life. It's going to be a little bit different because I don't have the privilege of the big screen of the office to actually see interactions, but Akane will help me on that. Can you guys hear me? Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Mm, okay, I can see your hands. I can see your hands. All right. Just because I'm sharing the screen. Okay, can you guys hear me and can you guys see my screen share?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to jump into it, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome you officially to our week 2 of this 6 weeks entrepreneurship bootcamp. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that so far this has been useful and it has been necessary for you guys. Last week we had our first session and I hope it was a good session. From the responses I saw that you guys responded. Firstly, I wanted to thank everybody that responded, that were keen enough to respond to the homework. I really appreciated that. A great number of you guys responded and you gave your honest opinion. I really, really enjoyed reading your responses. So thank you so much for all of you who did that. We are officially embarking on our week 2 of this training program. I would have really liked to see everybody's feedback. I wanted to, like I said last time, this session is going to be very interactive. So what you're going to do, you want to do me a favor. For those who have their hands up, please may I ask that you put your hands down, because hands up actually indicates that you want to ask a question. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go quickly to the chat box. So I've removed the share. Because I want to see everybody's interaction. All right. I want people to share with me a few things. So last week we obviously trained on our discussion of last week was on personal branding and clarifying your why. I just want to get a little bit of feedback just for like 2 minutes. What's the one thing that you remembered of last week that you've carried all throughout this week? So just write something down. So I've stopped sharing just because I want to see screens and comment. So what's the one thing that you remember? What's your takeaway from last week's exchange that you remembered and that you believe that you're going to be taking going forward? I'm just going to take a few comments. What's the one thing that you remembered from last week's training of personal branding and clarifying your why? Okay, I see somebody said reputation. Good, good, good. Come on, let's keep them coming. Where is everybody today? You guys are a bit quiet. No? Somebody said reputation. Somebody said, why is my why important? Or have we forgotten? Is that why you are quiet? This is our moment of refresher. We will always have a refresher before we embark on a new exchange. All right, come on, guys. Anything you remember. It could not be verbatim exactly what I said last week, but something along what I was training you guys on last week that you remembered and you felt was important for you. So somebody said reputation. Somebody said why is my why important? Why of existence? Somebody said experience. Let's keep them coming. I need at least 3 more. Why of existence? It's not about money, it's about passion. My personal brand, being my own brand. I like that. Your personal brand matters. Yes, this person was really in class last week. Understanding. Okay, could you elaborate, Notolo, on understanding? What about understanding? Pursuing my vision. Yes, my personal brand matters. Hard work, believe hard work and discipline. Yeah. Define your X factor. Wonderful. All right. 30 more seconds to give people the last chance to give their input. All right. Understanding why of existence or reason for creating. Great, Makolo. Good, good. That makes sense. Pros of entrepreneurship. Soar with your strength. Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your feedback. I think going forward, I will speak maybe with Akane and Marilyn and the team. We'll perhaps start sharing the training of the previous week during the week, so maybe you guys can have a chance to refresh on it. It's always good. You learned it when you were here, but you can also receive it maybe in PDF format, read up on it, and you refresh your mind, because everything that we are doing in this 6 weeks boot camp is all a build up so that by the time we are done with this training session, you are a fully fledged and informed entrepreneur. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So last week, we spoke about the importance of personal branding and clarifying your why. And we spoke about how it was firstly important to speak to the individual before we spoke to the business, because the individual, the business stems from the individual. And we took a lot of time in discussing about you as an individual, understanding your why of existence, your purpose, diving into your values, being uncompromised, having integrity. And then we said the importance of having a personal brand, understanding that you as an individual are a brand and you have to carry yourself as that, because your reputation by default leads to your elevation. All right. So now last week we took time to discuss and develop the individual. Now, this week, we're going to do a little bit of a different exercise. So last week, we spoke about the importance of, discovering the individual. And then we gave you a homework and we asked you a few questions, which some of you guys responded. And one of the key questions in the homework that we really wanted you guys to answer, because this is the beginning of our roots to entrepreneurship, was how we wanted you to look around your environment, look around your world, look around your community, and identify problems that you could potentially turn into a business. And I really like some of the answers that you guys gave. I mean, some of you guys gave some good answers. Some of you guys identified problems in your community environment around load shedding. Some of you guys, some of you guys identified the lack of fashion. Somebody said selling of water. Somebody say, selling of clothes. Somebody say, lack of supply, of toilet paper. Every one of you guys, somebody said, lack of internet cafes. Somebody spoke about support of teamwork communication, shortage of water. Some of you identified kids, dropping out of school, lack of recycling sewages. Some of you guys identified all these problems in your community, which could potentially become a business. Why was this homework question important? It's because most businesses are derived from asking questions such as, what are the problems in my community that I can solve? Most businesses are created out of the need that we find in our environment. You don't just create a business because you don't have an alternative to life. You've got nothing else to do in life, so you say, I'm going to get into business. That could be sort of an indicating factor, but oftentimes businesses are created because of needs in our community, needs in our environment. Like, I'm reminded of how, Uber came about. If the memory serves me correctly, it actually was, it was created by a certain individual who was in a certain country. I believe it was France. And they were, they went there for a business meeting and they were looking for a cab guy in the evening where they could go for evening dinner. and they didn't find it. And so they thought to themselves, imagine creating an app that can connect cab drivers with individuals. And boom, that's how Uber came about. Because there was a need in the environment, there was a need in the community, or there was a need at that instant moment, but nobody was there to provide it. A business was created. So ladies and gentlemen, that question that you answered about identifying a need in your environment to build a business, I want you to remember the answer that you gave, because from that answer, we're building it up to this week. Now, last week was personal branding and understanding your why. This week is a build up from that. In week number 2, today we'll be speaking about product deep dive and financing your unique product and its values. All right. So somebody write, you just type in the, in the chat box, product deep dive. All right. I want to see that, product deep dive. The first 5 people that write product deep dive, I begin my teaching. I want to see that comment there, product deep dive. Okay, that's 1. Thank you, Notrolo. Product deep dive. That's 2. Product deep dive. That's 3. Come on. Yeah, you guys are here. Remember, it's more interactive. That's 4. Yeah, last one, and I'm beginning. I see, that's 5. Wonderful. Thank you for those who commented. You're representing everybody. All right. So this week we're speaking about, oops, where did I go? This week, can you guys see my screen? This week, we're speaking about product deep dive, financing your unique products. So last week, like I said, was more personal, but here it's more product related. To start a business, you must have a product. And in this week 2, we will clarify exactly what your product is. Like I said, most of you guys answered the question of identifying the problem in your society or in your environment that you can turn into a business. Now, we're going to take that problem and we're going to see how we can turn that potential problem into a product or a service. So in this week, we will discuss things that what makes your product or your service unique. How does my product or service help people? How will I deliver my product? And what is the minimum viable product you can launch with? I know that's big English, but I will explain it in simple layman's terms as we go forward. So by the end of this Friday, you'll have a complete clarity. The aim is to give you complete clarity on what your product is and exactly how you'll be delivering it to your clients. So we've identified the potential problems in our society. Now, how can we turn that problem into a unique and clear product or into a unique or clear service? Some of you, based on what you identified as a problem, you can turn that problem into a product, and some of you will turn that product into a service. Now, a deep dive into the first thing we're going to focus now on is a deep dive into product discovery. Now, what exactly is a deep dive? A deep dive is a method where an individual or a team conducts an intense and in-depth analysis of a certain problem or a subject. So many of you guys identified around your community and you said, you know what, there's load shedding problem. There's no clothes. There's no internet cafe. There's no sewerage. There's no this, there's no that. You identified the problem and you said, based on the problem that I identified, I could potentially build a business here. And so you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to start an internet cafe. You know what, I'm going to start, maybe my service that I'll render is, selling clothes. Maybe my service will render is, being the connection points for people to have electricity. These were just ideas that you put in your mind, but there were ideas put in mind that needs to be interrogated, ideas put in mind that need to be dissected, broken into pieces. And that's the first thing that we do. When you identify a problem that could potentially become a business, and you give yourself to it as a product, or you give yourself to it as a service, the first thing then, the next step to do is to do a deep dive. Hence the picture here, you diving deep into the waters, you're diving deep into the matter. And deep dive is a method of in-depth and intense analysis of a certain problem or a certain subject. So this week, last week you identified the problem in your community, the problem in your environment, but this week now is to look into the problem that you identified and do a deep analysis on that problem. Do a deep analysis on that subject. Do a deep interrogation of the problem you identified in your society and do a little bit of a research around it. Why? Because the deep dive technique can be used by a single person or a group in order to brainstorm, problem solve, or engage in idea creation. Your business could become more than what you've just given it as name when you deep dive. When someone performs a deep dive on a certain problem, they conduct an extensive and a thorough investigation into that problem. And when you do that, it always leads to the engaging of idea creation. You know, when you decide you discover a problem as an entrepreneur, as an aspiring entrepreneur, it's not enough just to discover a problem. You also have to discover solutions to the problem. But solutions to problems are only brought about when you do a deep dive, when you begin to brainstorm, when you begin to research the problem, when you begin to research on the subject. And, you know, and the more you brainstorm, the more you create ideas. You know, a deep dive is conducted after a short analysis and is proof that there is need of further investigation. It's not enough to identify the problem. You have to research on the problem, research on the subject, brainstorm on the matter, either yourself, because you're an individual entrepreneur, or maybe with a group of people or friends around you. And those ideas that you guys will begin to share is actually what indicates and what dictates the kind of product that you want to produce. So if you identify that load shedding in my community is a problem, but that's all you know about load shedding. You don't know why loads are shed. You don't know the difference in levels of level 1 to level 8. You don't know what it means. You know, you have to do research on that. You know, if you identify the problem in your community is that there's no clothes being sold, research around it. Why aren't clothes being sold? What kind of clothes people like in the community? You know what I'm saying? So the more you actually do a deep dive on the problem that you identified in your community and you put yourself to brainstorm and problem solve, you engage in idea creations. And oftentimes than not, those idea creation is actually product creation. Idea creation is actually solutions creation. Idea creation is actually service creation. So this week again, like I challenged you last week, I challenge you, go back to the solution, the problem that you identified in your community, study the problem a little bit more, do an in-depth analysis, you know, challenge your brain, because that's what entrepreneurs do. You don't just make, you know, decision, but you make informed decisions. So challenge yourself to do an in-depth analysis on the problem in your community and in your environment, and brainstorm and begin to come up with ideas on solutions, ideas on the problems, and you will see those ideas will become your product or will either become your service. Now, there are a few things that you have to consider when you do a deep dive. The first thing is deep dive. You do a deep dive to explore a problem. You don't just do a deep dive for nothing. You are trying to explore the problem. You're trying to understand the problem. When a business has a problem, a deep dive may be conducted to investigate the issue and to mitigate its negative effect in an efficient and co-effective manner. You know, when there's a problem in your business or when there's a problem in your environment, you have to do a deep dive. Why? Because you are investigating the issue. Your problem, again, I'm going to use ESCOM a lot because that's the current issue we're having, because also some of you guys did make mention of that as load shedding is a big issue in your environment. You know, when you have noticed that load shedding is a big issue in your environment, certainly you are not at the level of ESCOM, so you can't perhaps bring a solution. But I know some people who are in communities that have been in load shedding for the past 6 months. It's not load shed like, you know, for us, a couple of 2 hours in a day. No, but your community has load shedding for 3 months. So what do? You identify that as a problem. Now you investigate the issue. You investigate where the problem is coming from, because in that investigation, again, you will identify an opportunity for a solution that you can bring. So the first thing you do a deep dive to explore a problem. Number two, you do a deep dive to explore the situation. When a business needs to explore a new situation or an environment or a market, they also conduct a deep dive. That's exactly what you need to do. You identify your problem in your community. Now you have to do a deep dive. Why? To explore the situation, explore exactly why is my community like this? Why don't we have access to, daycare after school for children? Why don't we have access to, a shop that sells clothes that are presentable people to wear? You have to do a deep dive. And the third one, you do a deep dive to explore an idea. When brainstorming ideas, a team can do a deep dive on a particular idea that they have interest in acting upon. So after you've identified the problem, you've done a little bit of a deep dive, you've brainstormed ideas, you've come up with ideas, but it's not enough to just have ideas. This point challenges us to even brainstorm your ideas even more. You do a deep dive on this idea and say, this idea that I have, has anybody ever come up with it before? You research. This idea that I have, can it make me money? This product that I want to sell, is it a need in the community or is it just another extra thing? Because oftentimes you find a lot of people that call themselves entrepreneurs are just doing what everybody's doing because that's what seems to be the trending thing. But you have to ask yourself, the product that I want to produce, the solution that I want to bring, is it a need? Is it something that will benefit? Does it have money-making opportunities and privileges? So you have to deep dive to explore an idea. And that's what we speak about when we're speaking about deep dive. The next point we're going to speak about here is after you've done the deep dive, like I said, everything we're teaching is a build-up. After you've done the deep dive to explore the situation, to explore the problem, and even to explore your idea, the next thing is from those ideas, you derive your solution and your problem, and you sort of begin to understand your product. Now, I want to just say something here. For some of you, your services will be a product. For example of product could be food, and for some of you, your services will be your business will be a service. Example of a service could be consultancy. But I want you to just understand here, when I speak about product here, I'm speaking about the product as an item, and I'm also speaking about the product as a service. So here in this point, we're speaking about understanding and refining your product. First point is, in understanding and defining your product, the first thing that you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, I must be honest, some of you guys gave me some good answers in terms of identifying your problems in the society, but some of you also gave vague answers. Some of you guys gave some answers that were not clear, and I couldn't see how this potential response could be translated into a business. That's why this week we're focusing on, after identifying the problem, the next thing is you have to define your product. So what exactly are you going to produce as an aspiring entrepreneur? Or for you that is an entrepreneur, do you know what your product is? As you venture into business, you have to first define your product. Start by defining what your product is and what it does. So this week, again, I want to challenge you. Go back. For those of you guys are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, or for those of you guys who already are, start by defining what your product is and what your product does. This includes identifying its features, its benefits, and the target audience. Make sure to have a clear understanding of your product and how it stands out in the market and exactly what makes it unique. You firstly start by defining your product. Then you conduct a market research. Why? Because conducting a market research is essential to understand your target audience, your competition, and the market trends. You can't just have a product and you don't do research around it. There's an audience that you must research. There's your competitors, because believe you me, as brilliant as you think you are and as original as you think your idea is, there are other people who are already in the market who are already rendering that service. So identify your ideal customer profile, analyze, this is deep work, but you have to sometimes analyze their behavior, analyze the preferences, and analyze the needs. And sometimes you have to research your competitors to identify their strengths and the weaknesses. And sometimes, more than often, you could actually be rendering a service that a big corporate company already does, but you want to do it on a smaller scale. Then you have a perfect place of research. Research your competitors, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how you can differentiate your product. Very important. And the third thing in understanding and defining and refining your product, you have to develop a user persona. And this is very important. Not everybody is going to consume your product. Not everybody needs your service. And you need to know that, and you need to make peace with that. That's why you are not called to sell to everybody. You are not called to attract everybody. That's why it's important to know, to develop your user persona so that your energy and your strength is devoted to your user persona. You know, develop a user persona that represents your ideal customer. Now, I know when you start a business, anybody that wants to purchase from you, sorry, anybody that wants to purchase from you, you would take. But it is important from the beginning of your business that you define your ideal customer. It's very important. It's part of the work of research, you know, and this persona should include demographic information, you know, their goals, their pain point, their behavior patterns, you know. This will help you to better understand your target audience and create a product that meets their needs. Now, how do you do this research? Sometimes you can do this research by, you know, going online, but also having conversations in your community. Imagine you sit with a few people in your community and you just begin to discuss with them around the issues of load shedding, how it affects them, their pain points, and how much, you know, how they wish things could be different, what they could do if things were different. All that serves as part of research, so you know your target audience, and it informs you how to create a product that will meet their needs when you launch it. You know, you need to conduct conduct usability testing. This is literally a little bit more intense work, but it is important. It's also part of research. Conduct usability testing to identify any issues or challenges with products or user experience. This is more for when you launch your product. This is for when you know your product is in the market. You've asked people to use your product. You've asked people to send. You've sampled a few people. You've asked them to make use of your product. And when they give you feedback, it's part of you conducting a usability testing to identify the issues or the challenges that people are experiencing with your product. You know, and once you've done the usability testing, you have to iterate and improve. You know, based on the insights and the feedbacks that you gather from people, you have to iterate, you have to make amends and improve your product. You know, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you cannot be the kind of person that say, this is what I render as a service, this is what I do, and that's it, take it or leave it. No. You have to make changes to your features, your functionalities, or your user experience to better meet the needs of your target audience. Because clients love to see suppliers that make changes to their product based on the feedback that they've given them. You know, clients like to see service provider that improve their services based on the feedback that they give them. So some of you guys identified that not a lot of makeup artists are in your environment. You know, when your clients give you feedback and they said maybe use too much powder in the makeup, you know, so what do? You improve that, and you even offer them another free tutorial, you know, free makeup, just to show that you've taken their response into consideration. All that, you know, helps to meet the needs of your target audience. Now that we've spoken a little bit about, you know, the deep dive, we've spoken about defining your product. We're going to speak a little bit about finessing, you know, your product. We're going to speak about a little bit about how to sharpen your product, how to make your product unique, you know, how to bring about or deal with your product. Are we still here? Are we still together? Are we still here? Again, I'm struggling today. I'm not able to see comments, but I love an interaction session. I love it when we interact together. So if we are still here, we're still following. Can I just see a few people just respond and just say, you know, finessing your product. Just write finessing your product. And I know somebody very soon will ask me, what does finesse mean? You know? Somebody just type the finessing your product. Yes, I see you, I see you. So just as means of, definition, to finesse is to bring about a skill using sorry. Finessing, I was reading something here. Yeah, I see you guys. So the word finesse, it basically is to bring about something using the highest level of skills. Bring about a product, bring about a service using the highest level of skills. All right. Thank you guys for responding. Okay. So I'm now going to focus on finessing your unique product. All right. Now, to finesse your unique product, you can take the following steps. So moving forward, we're going to be talking a little bit about a lot of steps. There's going to be a few steps we're going to discuss into doing many of the things that we want to do. So one of the first steps that we're going to look at is the steps that one has to take to finesse their unique product. Now, mind you, you would notice that I'm using the word unique a lot. Why? Because we want your product that you will release in the market to be unique. You have to make sure, out of research, out of identification of your competitors, that you make sure that the product or the service that you render to the world is unique. Now, to finesse your product, you take the following steps. Number one, identify your unique selling proposition. Further to this day, we're going to talk about value proposition, but let's talk about unique selling proposition here. Your USP is what sets your product apart from your competitors. Your unique selling proposition sets your product apart. You have to identify what makes your product unique, whether it's a particular feature, the quality of the materials you use, or your company's commitment to sustainability, or your ability to render services on time. Your unique selling proposition is very important, and we'll speak about it a little bit more when we speak about value proposition later in the presentation. Number two, you have to identify your customer pain points. Remember, we spoke about it in the previous slide. Understand the problems that your customers are trying to solve with your product. Identify the problems that the customers in your environment or the potential customers in your environment are trying to solve with your product. Identify the key pain points and challenges that they face in their daily life that your product can address. I think that's very important. I want to say that again. You have to, in your research of pain point, identify the key pain points and challenges that your potential clients are facing in their daily life that your product or your service can address. This will help you understand the value proposition of your product. Focus on the benefits. Once you understand the pain points of your customers, you can focus on the benefits that your product can provide. Now, I hope you guys are understanding why doing research, why doing a deep dive is so important. Because once you understand the pain points of your customers, you focus on the benefits that your product can bring to them. You see, guys, all of this is just a build-up. So people don't just become entrepreneurs because they wake up in the morning. There's intentions that go through this. There's intentional research. There's intentional thinking about it that goes through this. Refine your product features. Like I said, once you receive feedback from clients on your service or on your product, go back, refine your product features to ensure that they align with your target audience needs. Don't just produce a product for the sake of producing a product. Make sure that it is a product or a service that speaks to your client's needs and addresses their pain point. And as much as you focus on the benefits, also, next point, focus on the quality. Ensure that the quality of your product is consistent with its price point and target audience expectation. Consistency as an entrepreneur is very important. I want to start off by saying something that a wise man once said. He says, you are not known for what you occasionally do, but you are known for what you consistently do. If you decide to endeavor into business, people will not know your product or your service on what it occasionally does. You get it right today, you get it wrong tomorrow. No. People remember your product and your service on what it consistently produces. If you consistently produce quality in your service, you will be known as a quality entrepreneur or a quality business. But if you are inconsistent in your delivery, you'll be known as an inconsistent entrepreneur. And I'm sure that's not what you want to be labeled as, because remember what we said last week? Brand, personal brand, business brand is very important. So focus on quality. Let that be your focus. And then develop a strong brand identity. This goes back to what we spoke about last week. Personal branding. Develop a strong brand identity that reflects your unique selling proposition and that resonates with your target audience. This includes developing a brand name, a logo, and a messaging that communicates the benefits of your product and differentiates you from its competitors. All right. Eventually, when you render service, you'll have to build a loyal customer base. Customer relationship is very important. You know, you need to build a loyal customer base by providing exceptional service and support. That's how you buy the loyalty of your customers, by providing exceptional service and support. And again, the last point here is you have to continuously iterate and improve. Till this day, big Fortune 100 companies all over the world always do this. They iterate and they improve. That's why you find a company like Coca-Cola, for example, out of nowhere, they will do a rebranding campaign. You know, they will change their Coca-Cola bottles, or they will change the shapes, or they will include new flavors. Like recently, I don't know if you guys have noticed how Fanta, that we knew that only had Fanta orange and then had Fanta pine and then Fanta grape. Now all of a sudden there's Fanta mango, there's Fanta, apple. All of that is part of continuously iterating and improving your product to stay relevant and to meet your target audience changing needs. You know, for those who were in our entrepreneurship one-on-one conversation that I had in the beginning of the month of March, you would remember how I spoke about, how companies like Nokia and BlackBerry disappeared from the phone market because they didn't continuously iterate and it didn't continuously improve so they could stay relevant in the market. So you want to make sure that you're continuously improving yourself as an entrepreneur so that you stay relevant to the market. So that's important. And like we mentioned last time, focused on your benefits and focus on your quality. Not only focus on it, but you also have to communicate your value. Communicate the value of your product to your target audience. Always. Always communicate your value product and your target audience. And obviously, this is done by developing a messaging strategy that highlights the benefits of your product and how it solves their pain points. This obviously it's quite deep into entrepreneurship, and we will definitely provide you business coaching support to help you with this. Once we finish this entrepreneurship bootcamp experience, there will be people who will help you put together a messaging strategy that highlights the benefits of your product. Right now, we're sort of informing you about it so that when it happens, you remember that you're actually educated around it. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is defining your product value proposition. Like I said, we spoke about your selling proposition. Now we want to define your product value proposition. So what is product value proposition? Sounds like some big English word, but if you want to be unique, if you want to be considered in the eyes of your clients as to be different, if you are all selling, if there's 5 of you and you all own spaza shops and you all selling quarters, what is that one thing that will differentiate your quarter from all the other quarters? Because in reality, you are all selling quarters. The thing that can really differentiate your quarter from everybody's quarter is defining your value proposition. I almost feel like everybody must write that. Value proposition. What is value proposition? You know, the value proposition or your company's value proposition is a statement that communicates to your customer why they should choose your product. It's that statement, it's that thing, it's that feature, it's that definition, it's that benefit that you communicate to your customer as to why they should choose your product. And here, using the example of the 5 spaza shop owners, why they should buy your quota. It's the perfect value proposition because the perfect value proposition attracts customers in just a few seconds. Your value proposition states clearly what are the benefits that your product has that makes it unique. Are you guys hearing me? You know, your value proposition is the statement that you make to a customer that tells them my quota, my service can be it. We can all be selling quotas. We can all be selling things, but my quota is different because while everybody makes quota with an archer, my quota actually has coleslaw, which has never been done before. Just that statement automatically can get you customers because now they are curious. We've always had quotas with archer. Now he's going to make quota with coleslaw. Let's try and taste it and see how it's going to go. You know, your value proposition is basically your promise to your customer. And you will see, I've got examples of some companies, and I'm sure even in the top of your mind, you can already begin to think about companies that have got value proposition. Your value proposition is the promise to your customer to say, if you use my product, this is what I promise you to get in return. You know, to make the right promise, you first of all, you need to know who your product is addressing. To make the statement of value proposition, you firstly need to know who your product is addressing. And another obvious thing, you need to know all the benefits of your product that your customer values. And that's why I spoke before we begin to speak about value proposition. I spoke to you guys about the importance of knowing your customer pain points. Because when you know your customer's pain points, you sort of know what value proposition you can bring to them. And from this point, you can ask your team and yourself the following questions when you want to build your value proposition. So here we're speaking about how to write a value proposition for your product. You know, the few questions that you need to ask yourself is, how does the product satisfy the customer needs? What are the customer goals in the product to help them reach those goals? What makes the product different from the competitors? And how does this product make my customer feel? If the answer to all these 4 questions are unclear, you may need to conduct market research again or a series of interviews with your potential customers, just like I spoke about it before. You know, do not rely solely on the product manager or the business developers. That's obviously at the level if you start having this big. Don't just rely on yourself and on your knowledge. It's about the customers and the relationship with the product. So that's why I said again, guys, deep dive is important before launching a product and before even discussing your value proposition. Now, in defining and discussing your value proposition, there's a few things I felt it was important for you guys to understand. I hope by definition that you guys have understood what is a value proposition. If not, keep following me. I will show you some examples of some other companies' value proposition, which would obviously highlight to you what a value proposition can actually look like. Sometimes it's a statement, but sometimes it's a promise, and sometimes it's just a delivery. But you will understand it as we go forward. But before then, I want you to take note of a few do's and don'ts of product value proposition. These are the few do's. This is how a good value proposition should look like. Number 1, your value proposition should be clear. You know, you need to go for words that are easier to understand. When your customer sees the value proposition, it takes them a mere second to decide if they are interested or not. Like I said, for example, imagine 5 of you are all selling quotas, but everybody knows quotas are nice with acha, but your value proposition is our quotas are made with coleslaw and they bring vibe to your mouth. It's clear, and your customer has a mere second to decide if they are interested in acha with coleslaw or if they are not. I mean, in a quota with coleslaw or if they are not. You know, you don't want to make them waste their time in decrypting all those smart words. No, your value proposition should be simple with easy words and clear. Number 2, your value proposition should be unique. An ideal value proposition has something that differs from the competitors. Why? Because your uniqueness sells. Everybody knows it. So take it seriously and run a thorough research on competitors. Like I said, it's not about your knowledge of the product, but it's about the relationship of your product with the customer. So you have to make sure that your value proposition highlights the uniqueness of your product or your service. Number 3, your value proposition has to be short. And you will see in the examples that I'll show you going forward, your value proposition has to be short. Use few words. Fewer words make more sense. And this might be very hard, you know, as research shows that this might be the hardest point, but a short value proposition is a sign of integrity and uniqueness of your product. When you're building your value proposition, when you're trying to define what makes your product different, make sure that it is short and few words. And these are the list of things that you should avoid in defining your value proposition. Number 1, don't try to mention all the benefits of your product in the value proposition. No, like we said, keep it short. Why? Too much information is confusing. Your value proposition should be quota with coleslaw for vibe in your mouth. Done. Not if you buy a quota with us, you'll get a quota that has coleslaw that could taste different from what the other people's quota tastes with acha. No. Keep it short. Number 2, don't make it too vague. You know, don't make it clear. The value proposition is not a list of abstract values, you know. It has to be very clear. Very simple and very clear. Number 3, don't start with the words like the number 1 selling brand. You would hear it a lot. And, you know, big corporate businesses do that because perhaps they've got reason. But if you as a startup start by saying the number 1 selling hotspot quota selling section in Mamelodi, research has shown that that kind of value proposition doesn't work with the 21st century customers. Instead of telling people that you are the best, focus on why you are the best. All right. So those are the do's and the don'ts of value proposition. And number 4, don't rely too much on videos. You know, let's say you produced a great trailer that explain all your product does in less than 30 seconds, because, you know, in this new generation, and I felt it important to put it here, many of you guys will market your business online, but you shouldn't just focus on the video to sell your business. You know, your intention might be to place that video on your main page, skipping all the extra text, but don't only rely too much on the videos. Make sure that you word out your value proposition to your world and to your potential clients. All right. Now, like I said, to make this a lot clearer, I wanted to present to you a few examples of great value propositions from some famous companies that you would know, so you can understand, you know how it works. Because oftentimes finding examples of value proposition is easy. In most cases, it's the first thing you see on the main page of a product. Now, here we analyze a few of them to find out what makes them work. Let's look at Netflix, for example. What is Netflix value proposition? And you see it from their front page, you see it for when you join. You know, Netflix here from the example, the picture I show, it says their value proposition is everything right at your fingertips. You know, it says here, original Netflix content, movies, series, and much more for everyone instantly. Are you guys seeing that? Are you seeing how short and sweet their value proposition is? Everything right at your fingertips. Original Netflix content, movies, series, and much more for everyone instantly. Is somebody understanding value proposition a little bit more here? You know, the key elements of Netflix value proposition are unlimited. What they are selling is unlimited access, various gadgets supported, downloadable, and a wide variety of movies and series, of course. Right on their landing page, they don't even mention it, just put all those posters in the background. You know, do you see the posters in the background there? Highlighted there? They don't even mention it, they just put all the posters in the background. You know, and this research, I wanted to put it here, it says if there was an Oscar for the clearest value proposition, Netflix will be the first one to get it. Why? Because they made their value proposition clear. Is somebody seeing that? I hope that example helped. The next one is for Airbnb. Oh, by the way, I shouldn't assume everybody knows Netflix. Netflix is a movie series and a content creation platform that shows movies and series and many more things online. You pay a subscription fee to have access to their movies and their series. And this is their value proposition. Now, Airbnb is actually a platform that lets people rent out their homes or their hotels to people that needs to rent out a place to stay and so forth. And one of the interesting value proposition of Airbnb is that Airbnb started by connecting travelers with rental vacations directly. Now it has grown to a marketplace of experiences, both online and offline. It can be a vacation stay, guided tour, you know, to a volcano, to a live concert, or a cooking workshop. So their value proposition has changed. And what does Airbnb say now? When they offer so many different services, well, this is their value proposition. This is what they say. Find everything you need to make your next trip memorable or start earning money as a host. Do you hear that? That's their value proposition. For the person who wants to find everything you need to make your next trip memorable or start earning money as a host. Why? Because if you want to use your house as to rent out for people for vacation, people who are in vacation to stay in, you can make money by being a host. Or if you want to find a place, as somebody wants to travel from here all the way to Germany, you can find everything you need to make your trip memorable. So what they do now is they manage to address both parts of their target audience, the guest and the host. Are you guys seeing that? I really like this value proposition. It says, find everything you need to make your next trip memorable. That is addressing the guest. Or start earning money as a host. That is addressing a host. Clear, short, and concise. Easy English, easy to understand. I hope that is helping somebody. And the next one and the last one is Nike. This, I'm sure we all know, this is a footwear company, but I like their value proposition. You know, what the company states as its value proposition is innovation and sustainability. But it also says clearly that the products are for athletes, with a footnote that says, if you have a body, you are an athlete. Man, I love that. Because professional athletes won't make a huge market, especially if you consider that they are often being paid to use Nike products, not paying to get them. So by saying that you are an athlete, they appeal to the customer's desires. Did you guys see that? Why? Did you see their value proposition where it says, if you have a body, you are an athlete. So as a customer, we buy their sneakers because we want to be an athlete, or at least be just like them. That's their value proposition. If you have a body, you're an athlete. Why? Because their value proposition is actually innovation and sustainability, and it's product that is made for athletes. But this is not athletes that play soccer, that play basketball. Their athletes here is, if you have a body, you are an athlete. Now, you obviously go buy the sneakers and you buy this product because you also want to be an athlete, or at least you want to be seen just like them. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to take a pause here, I hope you guys have better understood value proposition, but I'm also, again, open to getting your questions by the end of this share. I want to understand value proposition better, but it's something that you must already think about. It is your differentiating factor. It's your sell. It's your promise to the client. All right. I hope we are still here. I hope we're still together. Again, I'm not able to see comment. I will not try to go there again because it moves me from my presentation and I'm already quite far in. But I want to take a pause here. I want you guys to ponder on it because right now we're going to dive into identifying our product. I want to go back to saying we started off by doing a deep dive, defining your product, your unique selling point, and the value proposition we now discussed. Oftentimes one of the things that people always ask in terms of their product is how to deliver my product. Product delivery is very important, and it's what we're going to speak about now. Right? How will I deliver my product? The delivery method for your product will depend on the type of product you are offering. That's the first thing to know. How you deliver your product depends on the product that you're offering, depends on your target market, and it depends on your business model. However, I've decided to put in a few common delivery methods for us to consider. Okay. Number one, the first delivery method that you can consider in delivering your product, depending on what it is shipping. All right. Are we still here? Are we still together? All right, so the first product delivery mechanism, how to deliver your product, the first method to consider is shipping. Shipping is a very common delivery method for physical product. This is, again, if you have physical product, you can use various shipping carriers such as FedEx, UPS, USPs to deliver your product to your customers. I mean, there was a time where I started a product delivery business, and I was using Aramex to deliver my products because it's a shipping business. And I even started using there was this other one. Pep even does delivery as well now, shipping delivery. The other option method you can use is in-person delivery. If you're offering a service or a physical product, you may offer in-person delivery to your customers. Most time when you're delivering a product, when you're offering a product as a service, most business owners start by in-person delivery. I mean, I know many of you guys, the entrepreneurs, the owners of Drip Sneakers and the owner of Batu. They, before having all the shops they have today, they were doing in-person delivery because they wanted to show the customer that in-person touch, that thank you for buying my sneakers. Thank you for giving me a chance. That's a delivery method. Then there's digital delivery. If you're offering a digital product such as a software or an ebook or a music album, you may deliver your product digitally through email, through cloud-based storage, or downloading a link. These are just me giving you the common kind of delivery methods, Or you can deliver subscription-based delivery. If you're offering a product or a service on a recurring basis, you may consider offering a subscription-based delivery. This includes delivering the product on a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis to a customer's doorsteps or email inbox. And then there's the partner-based delivery. If you're offering a service or product that requires specialized expertise, you may partner with another business to deliver your product. But obviously you have to consider the pros and the cons of each delivery method and choose the one that best suits your business model and target audience. If you're going to be a consultant, you're going to have to deliver it face-to-face, in person, and be sure to communicate your delivery method to your customers to ensure a positive customer experience. For those who deliver products to customers, for example, you deliver hair or you deliver clothes, you have to tell them, listen, this is the fee of the clothes, but we charge 100 Rand delivery fee, separate from the fees of the clothes. Always have to be clear to your customers upfront and not surprise them. All right. Now, the next point of discussion is, what is the minimum viable product I can launch with? This is mostly for those of you guys who are planning to launch a business with the product. For those planning to launch a business with a service, it's a little bit different. It might not be a conversation too relevant for you, but just pay attention. You could get something here. So the word minimum viable product, which we're going to, keep it short for MVP, is basically the most basic version of your product that can be launched to the market to test its viability and gather feedback from the customer. The idea is to create a product with just enough features to satisfy early adopters and gather information about developing, future development. Guys like Facebook did this. Guys like Microsoft do this. Guys like Apple do this. Most companies that are launching a product always create the most basic version of the product and launch it to the market to test its viability, to test its feasibility, to test its ability to satisfy clients' needs. And based on the feedback that customers give them, they have an idea on how to create the product to sell to the market. The specific features of an MVP will depend on your product and on your target audience. However, here are common characteristics of an MVP. What you need to focus on when you are deciding on the number of your MVP is the features. Your MVP should include only the most essential features that provide value to your target audience. If you're launching a product that you don't even know if it's going to make you money, it would be smart for you not to launch the product fully, but a sample version of it to a sample group of people so that you get feedback from them on how to launch it fully. All right. So you need to focus on a core set of features, and you need to also focus on a simple user interference. Your MVP should have a simple, easy to use interference that is easy for customers to understand. This again, if it is a product. It should have a basic design. It should have limited functionalities and should be easy to deploy. It should be easy to deploy and scalable for user growth. Again, this is more informative for you, but we're going to designate business coaches and mentors who will help you to bring this out. This is not something that perhaps you might be able to, at the level of knowledge that you have now, be able to do fully, but it's certainly something that you must know of that is done in the future of the growth of your business. Ladies and gentlemen, I have come to the end of my presentation today. Again, we try not to make it too informative so as not to bombard you with too many questions. and you don't have anything or you forget everything. So I've come to the end of my presentation. Again, I thank you for participating today. The floor is officially open for questions. Yes, thank you for those who gave a round of applause. The platform is officially open for questions. Akane is with us. She will help us. Those who want to voice out their questions, you will raise your hand. Akane will see you. She will unmute you. You'll ask your questions. And those who are too shy to ask their question, you can type it out. We will read it and we will answer you. Ladies and gentlemen, over to you.
Thank you, Glody. Thank you. As Glody has mentioned, I will unmute you. If you have a question, just raise your hand. I will unmute you, and then I will enable your mic, and then you have to unmute yourself in, or you can type your question in the chat box.
Okay. I'm waiting for the brave ones or those who have questions, unless you guys are really brilliant and you've understood everything. Akane, are there any questions? Anybody with their hands lifted?
I see a text message in the chat box below. In the chat box, Togazani saying,
You said, I need this webinar replay.
Yes.
Yes, I believe that Akane does send. Oh, wait. Sorry, I think my volume is muted. Akane, were you speaking?
Oh, yes, I was. I thought it was a delay on my side. But Togazan is asking for the webinar replay. We send these on email. So the email that you registered with on both the workshops, the 101 workshops, and the email you used in the homework. Those are the emails that we use to send you the link to the webinar and the link to the homework as well. So you will get the link to the webinar.
Okay. I see here. Oh, yes, I need a webinar. Hello, I want to ask about last week's assignment. There was no Mpumalanga under provinces. Akane, can you answer that?
Hi, Amo. We did note that someone brought it to our attention and we fixed it and put it on. We also fixed it for this week's homework as well. You will find Mpumalanga under provinces. Should I read the next question for you, Glody? Fortunate says, still having a hard time understanding product value proposition.
I'm with you.
Can you help with that?
So I'm going to try to make it very simple. So your product value proposition is basically what about your product or what is it about your service that would be more valuable than that of any other product or service in the market similar to yours? What is it about your product that makes it more valuable than other people's product? If, like I said, all of us, 5 of us sell quarters, and we have clients and you know, 5 people are selling quarter and we all want to eat quarter. What is it about your quarter, Fortunate, that is going to be different to convince us to not buy the quarters of the other 4 quarter sellers? Now, you have to discover what exactly about my quarter that I want to make different. What is it? Is it going to be in the size of the bread? Is it going to be in the price? Is it going to be in my ingredient? Is it going to be in my setup? Let me give you an example. We could all have 5 spaza shops and we are all selling quota. But the difference about your spaza shop is that your value proposition is the fact that you don't have to buy quota in a rush. You know, most places that sell quota, people just come, stand, and they go. But your spaza shop could actually have a table and a chair where people actually buy quota and take a seat. So your value proposition could be buy your quota with ease or eat your quota with ease, you know, or your value proposition could be buy your quota and eat it with ease. Why? Because there are tables and chairs. So most people will choose to go buy quotas your side, not because it's any better than the other 4, but just because at least they can buy and sit and talk with their friend. You know what I'm saying? So your value proposition is what value that your business has that differentiates it from others. If we are all selling clothes and there's 5 of us that sell clothes, why should we choose to come into your shop to buy clothes as opposed to going to another person's shop? Your value proposition is what differentiates. Maybe it's your price, you know? Maybe you are the kind of person that sells three shirts for the price of one. So value proposition could look at your price. Your value proposition could be looking at the quality. Your value proposition could be looking at something that you offer that nobody else does. Because at that time, for example, before we had Google, iPlay, before we had Showmax, before we had Amazon, there was nobody in the world that offered a platform that had movies and series all at once. And that's what Netflix offered. It's off of that Amazon also came, you know, Showmax also came, iPlay also came. So that originality that makes your product different is your value proposition. Have I, in layman's term, be able to explain it? Okay, perfect. I'm glad that you understand. All right.
Awesome. Thank
So
you.
I see there's a question here. When are we going to get the data? So we had a little bit of a delay this week in terms of loading the data, but we're definitely going to launch it next week, Wednesday. So you will actually get double data. So let me give an example. If we promise to give you 1 gig this week, because we didn't give it, next week you're going to get 2 gigs each. So we apologize for that inconvenience. We just had to work some things out with the finance department. You know, it's quite a lot of things. But next week you will get double data. All right. I see Temba here says I already attended 2 lessons, but I received the message saying today is my second lesson. Yes, today is your second lesson. This is the 6 weeks bootcamp. So I don't know if the first one you attended was the entrepreneurship one-on-one. Please don't confuse. The entrepreneurship one-on-one workshop is separate from this 6-week bootcamp. So in this 6-week bootcamp, last week was the first week, and this is the second week. So making it the second lesson. So rightly so. Okay. Awesome. I don't know if I've answered Temba on that. Are there any other questions? All right, there are no other questions. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our training today. Again, the team Akane will send out a link for homework. Guys, I need you to complete those homework because it's all a build-up. It's all a build-up. And only those, oh, thank you, Loazi. Very insightful, Gloria. I appreciate it. We appreciate those kind of feedback. Yes, do give a feedback if today's lesson was insightful. Thank you, Loazi, for that. So there's going to be a homework. Please help me respond to those homeworks because it's all going to build up. And the more of you that answer the homework, the more incentive. There's going to be more incentive. There's more than just data that we're going to give you. There's more than just, so, but you'll want to make sure that you do your homework, answer them. You know, you have until Wednesday to submit. Ideally, no, you have until Tuesday to submit. End of day, Tuesday to submit your homework. Answer those homeworks. And believe you me, keep going with us. Any other questions that you have, keep writing it down. We promise you that by the end of these 6 weeks, you will be informed and you will see how you're going to take yourself to the next level in terms of your business. As for me, I say thank you again. We've come to the end. I don't know if Akane or Marilyn, if she be around, have any closing statement, but I am done and I thank you.
Thank you, Glody. Thank you so much to everyone that joined. Please be on the lookout for the link to the homework. For those who are joining with their organizations as well, we will be sending out the link also in the WhatsApp groups. We'll be sending out the links on SMS and on SMS for those whose emails are not going through, and then we'll be sending it on email as well. So please check out your email. And when you do your homework, please make sure that you're filling in the right information. So when we ask you for your cell phone number, please put in the correct cell phone number, because when we load the data, we're going to load it on the number that you give us. So please make sure that you put in the right name, right surname, the correct email address, your correct cell phone number, and please make sure you also state which network provider you use. So whether you use MTN, Telkom, Cell C, Vodacom, please answer that, and also answer all your questions thoroughly so that it can be helpful for you. And as Glody analyzes the homework, he can also bring feedback to the class. So wishing you guys a happy Friday and enjoy your weekend and the homework. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Akane. Thanks, team.